Look, I need to say something up front, something that's going to make a very specific group of people very uncomfortable. I have never played Spyro the Dragon. Not I played it for 10 minutes at a cousin's house. Not a vaguely I remembered the demo. I mean never. 30 years, 3 decades, an entire childhood shaped by the PlayStation, and I deliberately walked around the purple dragon like he was radioactive. And the worst part, I did it on purpose. Because in 1998, gaming wasn't just gaming, it was an identity. You didn't just like games, you declared an allegiance. You picked a mascot, and you picked a side, and once you did, you defended that choice like it was written into your birth certificate. I was a Crash Bandicoot kid. Crash was chaos. Crash was stress. Crash was being chased down narrow hallways by a boulder that felt personally motivated. Crash didn't invite you to explore. Crash demanded you survive. And I loved that. Spyro, from a distance, looks soft. A friendly little dragon just wandering around collecting shiny things like he's on a mindfulness retreat. I didn't want barbs. I wanted pressure. I wanted TNT crates. I wanted masks yelling at me. I wanted the constant fear that one mistimed jump would erase the last 20 minutes of my life. So when those demo discs came in the PlayStation magazine, you remember the ones. Crash up front, Spyro tucked in the coming soon section like an afterthought. I ignored them every time. Not because I hated Spyro, because I was loyal. And loyalty is dangerous when you're 10 years old and marketing has figured out how to weaponize mascots. Which brings me here, 17 games into the PSX Index, a completely reasonable plan where I attempt to play and document every single North American PlayStation release. All 1,278 of them. No skips, no shortcuts. Just me, a console from the 90s, and a slow corruption of my free time. I've survived the cheap football games. I've crawled through the Bazaar bundle, vibrating sticks, cavemen who nap mid-stride, jazz playing dominoes with existential dread, and now the Index has brought me here. Index number 17, Spyro the Dragon, the game I avoided for 30 years because I thought liking it would somehow mean betraying Crash. Which is ridiculous, but also completely true. And here's the part that actually scares me. What if I was wrong? Not wrong in the internet argument sense. Wrong in the quiet, uncomfortable way. What if Spyro isn't soft? What if he has heart? What if I missed something genuinely special because I was too busy defending a cartoon Bandicoot with jeans? Because if that's true, this isn't just a first playthrough, it's a reckoning. So no, I'm not switching sides. Crash is still my guy. But today, I'm finally crossing the border. For the first time ever, I'm stepping into the Dragon realms. Older, more cynical, significantly more tired, to see if this game actually earns the reputation I refuse to give it.
Once upon a time, there was a young dragon named Spyro. He journeyed across enchanting worlds to rescue other dragons from the spells of Nasty Mork. After battling Nasty and his minions, Spyro brought peace back to the land. Spyro mania swept the country, and everyone lived happily ever after. Not! That feisty lizard burned herds of a sheep! Cool!
Welcome back to the PSX Index. I'm Parasine, and this might be the most uncomfortable first playthrough I've done so far. The first thing that surprised me wasn't Spyro himself, it was the silence. There's music obviously, but space. After years of Crash conditioning me to panic at all times, Spyro drops me into a world that doesn't immediately try to murder me. No boulder, no timer, no screen shaking because I breathed wrong. Just open air, stone archways, and a sense that the game is saying, go on then, have a little look around. And I didn't trust it. I kept waiting for the trap. I'd take a few steps forward, stop, spin the camera, check behind me, because surely something is about to sprint in from off the screen and punish me for enjoying myself. Nothing did. Spyro just stands there, tapping his little feet, looking mildly offended that I'm not moving. That alone felt illegal, because PlayStation games from this era don't let you relax. But then I start moving, and that's when it hits. Spyro's controls feel good. Not good for 1998, Not good once you get used to it, just good. He accelerates cleanly, he jumps and lands where you'd expect. The glide actually goes where your brain thinks it should go, which doesn't sound impressive until you remember this is a PS1 game where most cameras were held together by a hope and a prayer. I charged into a wall expecting jank. Instead, I got momentum, and suddenly I'm not testing the controls anymore, I'm trusting them, which is terrifying, because trust is how games get you. Then there's the worlds, not levels. Worlds, big open spaces with vitality that actually matters. Platforms above platforms, hidden ledges, little nukes that clearly exist just to reward curiosity, and that's when the uncomfortable thought starts creeping in. Oh no, this isn't soft. This is confidence. The game isn't rushing me because it doesn't need to. It knows I'll keep moving forward. And the collectibles, gems, dragons, all of it don't feel like chores. They feel like excuses. Excuses to explore, to look behind that tower, to glide just a little further than I probably should. Crash made me feel skilled when I survived. Spyro makes me feel skilled when I choose to go somewhere dangerous, and I was not prepared for that. By the end of the first world, something had shifted. Not a full conversation, not a betrayal, but a crack. A tiny, uncomfortable crack in 30 years of loyalty, and I hate how much I enjoyed it. So let's talk about the enemies, because this is where my Spyro is soft argument should have won. On paper, these are not intimidating creatures. Sheeps, Norks, little wizard guys who look like they work part-time at a novelty crystal shop. I'm a Crash veteran. I have 4 tribal masks, sentient lab assistants, and animals with unresolved anger issues. I wasn't worried, and then I got hit. Once, and suddenly I'm blinking, because Spyro doesn't do the Crash thing where you can tank 3 bad decisions and keep going if you've got an Aku Aku mask. Your health bar is a dragonfly, a bug, a glowing insect whose continued existence determines whether I live or die. If Sparx is green, I'm fine. If Sparx is blue, I'm concerned. If Sparx turns yellow, I start playing like I'm defusing a bomb with oven mitts. And if he disappears, that's it. No dramatic warning, no cinematic slow-mo. Just a quiet realization that my life insurance was tied to a butterfly economy. That alone forces a different mindset. You're not button mashing, you're spacing, charging enemies from behind, using terrain, thinking before you breathe fire, because fire isn't a win button, it's a tool. And the game expects that from you. Enemies have tells, shields matter, poisoning matters. This isn't hold X to win, this is pay attention or go back to the start. And then there's the fire. Breathing fire in Spyro isn't about power fantasy, it's about control. Fire has range, fire has timing, fire punishes bad angles. The charge is fast, but it's risky. The flame is safe, but it's situational. And the game quietly teaches you that without ever stopping to explain itself. No tutorial pop-ups, no NPC lecturing you, just consequences. And the worst part, it feels fair. When I died, I didn't blame the game, I blamed myself, which is dangerous. That's how games get a long-term loyalty. The soft label starts falling apart when you realise Spyro isn't easier, he's just less cruel about it. Crash laughs at you when you fail, Spyro just reloads the world and lets you try again, which somehow feels more judgmental. By the time I cleared a few worlds, I wasn't relaxing anymore, I was focused. Because behind the pastel colours and the chill music is a game quietly asking, are you actually paying attention? Or did you think I was just vibes? And that's when I realised something important. Spyro doesn't look dangerous, but neither does a gliding mistake, and both will absolutely ruin your day. So let's talk about the Elder Dragons, because the moment I freed my first one, I had a very specific emotional reaction. Oh, so that's how it's going to be. You headbutt a crystal, it shatters, light explodes everywhere, epic music swells, out steps a dragon, roughly the size of a double-decker bus. Ancient, majestic, covered in armour, clearly capable of flattening half of the map by accident. He stretches, cracks his neck, looks down at me, a toddler with wings, and says, "Thanks, Spyro, try tapping X after you jump to glide." Excuse me? That's it. That's the wisdom. You've been imprisoned for who knows how long, and your entire civilization is frozen. Ghastly Nork is still very much out there committing crimes, and your contribution is a control tip I learned by accident 3 minutes ago. And then he just vanishes, doesn't fight, doesn't help, doesn't even walk off, just disappears into a glitter cloud like a middle manager clocking out early on a Friday. And it keeps happening. Every Elder Dragon is the same. You save them, they give you one sentence of advice, then evaporate. I've never seen such a perfect representation of management culture in a video game. These dragons aren't leaders, they're consultants. They exist solely to tell you how to do something. They are physically, emotionally, and spiritually capable of doing themselves, and then leave. Have you tried approaching the problem differently, Spyro? I'm approaching it by risking my life. Meanwhile, they all gathered in the hub world, standing around, stretching, just vibing, watching me run errands, because that's what Spyro is, not a hero. An intern, an unpaid intern whose performance review is delivered one sentence at a time by immortal beings who refuse to lift a claw. And the game knows this. It leans into it. There's no grand speech, no emotional payoff. No, we couldn't have done this without you. Just, good job, kid. Now glide better. And honestly, it works, because it creates this bizarre dynamic where you're clearly the most competent dragon in the room, and also the smallest, youngest, and most expendable. You're not saving the world because you're chosen. You're saving it because everyone else is busy glowing, which somehow makes the journey feel personal. You're not driven by destiny. You're driven by a mild resentment, and that's relatable. By the time I'd freed a handful of these guys, I stopped expecting help. I stopped waiting for backup. I accepted the truth. This entire civilization is being saved by a purple child, while the elders offer vibes and feedback. And somehow, that makes Spyro feel more honest than most heroic fantasy. There's a moment that crept up on me, not a cutscene or a boss, not even particularly an impressive jump. It was the moment my thumb stopped arguing with the controller, because the first Crash Bandicoot was rigid. Crash's angles, Crash's commitment. Once you jump, you've signed a contract. Once you spin, you've accepted the consequences. Spyro doesn't really work like that. Spyro just flows. You move the stick and he leans, not snaps. He doesn't pivot. He leans and turns like he's anticipated where you want to go before you've fully decided. At first, that bothered me. It felt loose and too forgiving, like the game was letting me off easy. But then I realised something deeply unsettling. I wasn't fighting the controls. I wasn't correcting the mistakes. I wasn't swearing at depth perception. I was just moving. Charging into the enemies feels heavy. There's a little wind up, a sense of weight. When Spyro slams into something, it feels deliberate, like throwing your shoulder into a door instead of politely knocking. And the glide is where it clicks. Because gliding in Spyro isn't a panic button. It's not an, oh no, I've messed up. It's planned. You jump knowing where you're going to glide. You aim knowing you're going to correct mid-air. You commit knowing the game will meet you halfway, which is a bit dangerous, because suddenly, exploration feels intentional. You're not just surviving the level, you're navigating it. And without realising it, I started doing something I never do. I just slowed down. I stopped sprinting to the exit. I stopped playing like there was a timer screaming at me. I started to look around. What's over there? Can I reach that ledge? If I can charge, jump, glide, land, turn, glide again. Yeah, I can. And that's when it hit me. This isn't a game about precision. It's a game about confidence. Spyro gives you plenty of trust. It trusts you to experiment, to fail safely, to try something dumb just to see if it works. Crash dares you to survive. Spyro invites you to play. And I didn't want to have to admit it. I really didn't. But somewhere between gliding over a valley and headbutting a sheep into a puff of gems, I stopped comparing. I stopped thinking, this isn't Crash. I started thinking, oh, this is its own thing. And that's the dangerous part. Because once a game stops feeling like a rival, it starts feeling like a memory you never made. That's Spyro. Not stressful, not chaotic, not a boulder chasing you down a hallway, not a neon stick trying to murder your thumbs, just calm comfort in a disc. If I was sitting on a couch in 1998 with a handful of quarters and a juice box, this is the game I'd lose myself in. And in 2026, it's still the same. Feet up, a fire crackling somewhere, a a cup of something warm, no algorithm whispering in my ear that I should be angry about something, just a purple dragon, some sheep to headbutt, and a world that somehow trusts me to explore it. Could I 100% this game? Sure, maybe one day, when I'm not recording, editing, writing notes and scripting, I'd pop it onto a handheld and slowly wander the Dragon Realms, enjoying every tiny charming corner. But right now, this is perfect for me. Just finished enough. Index 17 is complete, the credits are rolling, and my brain slightly less fried. And just like that, one more green tick on the PSX index, one more notch in a very long, slightly terrifying belt. 17 games down, 1,261 to go. Let that sink in for a second. I am literally attempting to play, document, and survive every single North American PlayStation release. All 1,278 of them. No skips, no mercy. We're going to be documenting every single one of them. Every glowing polygon and vibrating controller. Somewhere out there, a child in 1998 chose a game, made a life-altering mascot decision, and 30 years later, I'm living the consequences. I've survived cheap soccer games that should have been illegal. I've endured the bizarre bundle, sticks that hate me, narcoleptic cavemen, jazz playing dominoes plotting my downfall, and now I've crossed the Dragon Realms. Spyro has heart, it has charm, it doesn't demand my soul like previous index entries, but it earns my respect quietly. Feet up, fire on, maybe one day on a handheld. This is exactly the kind of 90s comfort I would happily sink into. Escape the doom scrolling from brain dead modern life, but don't get it twisted, this is still part of a marathon that will end when I collapse into an armchair and maybe write a small essay before I die of old age. One day, maybe I'll 100% Spyro for fun. For now, it's enough to survive him, appreciate him, and move on. Because the index doesn't pause for comfort, it doesn't wait for nostalgia, it keeps moving.
Nasty's ancient history now. So, what's in there?
I believe this is Nasty's treasure hoard. But the gate will not open until you have found everything in the Dragon Kingdom. Come back when you have reached 100%.
1,261 games to go. Spyro is behind us. We've kissed the purple dragon on the nose, waved politely, and left him in his pastel paradise. Next episode, we're stepping in a fog so thick it could chew your spine and spit it out for breakfast. Index 18. It's going to be terrifying. It's going to be absurd. It's going to make me wish I had a flamethrower, a headset full of jazz, and maybe a tea break. But hey, this is the PSX Index, and I'm Parasine. If you survive me, stick around, because we're about to find out if ghosts, fog, and the occasional skinless child are more terrifying than a purple dragon ignoring you for 30 years. Silent Hill, keep your radio tuned, you're going to need it.